Welcome everyone to this week's post-film discussion of the Palestine Museum US. We have with us Nahed Awad, who is the director of the film Palestine, banned in Berlin, that we just watched together. And we also have with us Nadia Samour, who is the lawyer in the film, featured challenging German law and German bans on solidarity with anything Palestinian. Welcome to both of you. We so appreciate you taking the time to be with us, and welcome to all of those of you in person and on Zoom for this incredible hybrid event at the Palestine Museum US. I wonder if you two could just tell us a little bit about how you came to make this film and how you know each other. I know you're both based in Berlin. Why don't we start there, and then maybe you can talk a little bit about what it's like to be a filmmaker in Berlin, on working for Palestinian solidarity and with under all these restrictions. And Nadia, of course, you can comment also on the challenges of working in that context as a lawyer, a Palestinian German lawyer on the ground in Berlin, challenging these really incredible authoritarian restrictions on Palestinian solidarity. So welcome to both of you, and thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much, and thank everybody who's here. Actually, the idea, it was not a long process. I wanted to do something since I moved to Berlin since 6 years with my family. And I noticed how actually the topic Palestine is not really a comfortable topic in Germany. When talking to a German like people, and you see this, you feel it in every aspect almost. And then I heard about the Nakba ban demos that started already. Maybe Nadia can remind me, already like 2 years ago. Yeah.
2020.
Yeah. So 2 years ago, and then I heard about last year. There was an action, and then these people were like arrested. You see it when Nadia and Ahmed was looking at this footage. So these people, they just went there and stood there and silently, and they were arrested. And then there was this, so I decided, I talked to Mariam. Mariam Shaheen is the co-director, and also she was the producer of the film. I talked with her about the idea, and we started documenting. We wanted to do something about the topic. We didn't know how to handle it, but we decided we want to do it, and we started documenting things. And then I heard about the court sessions with Ahmed and Nadia, and I was going there and documenting. And we thought, like me and Mariam, the best way is like to do it through, because you have to find an angle. And I think through Nadia and this perspective of the lawyer perspective is really very important. And also Nadia, somebody who's really the best character to tell the story with Ahmed. So yeah, this is how it started. And I knew Nadia even before through her sister, whose her name is also Nahed. So we're part of this. We came across many times through events related to Palestine in Berlin, and we got to know each other. So yeah.
Nadia, would you like to add something to that?
Yeah, I think you pretty much explained your motivation, how to do this film, and I also think that it is very timely to discuss the role of Germany, and in particular the policies here by the Berlin government, where a huge Palestinian community lives, and is becoming more and more a target of these authoritarian practices that you've mentioned.
Some people are asking about German law and how you can use German law to basically challenge the restrictions on the solidarity with Palestine. I know that in the film you talk about how the police are actually charged with the, protecting Versammlungsfreiheit, which is the right to assembly, and yet they also have the power to suspend Versammlungsfreiheit. So how do you handle that in German law, and what opportunities are there to, and I know as a lawyer, Nadia, it's exactly what you're doing, is drawing on those, have had some success, but maybe you could talk about that a little more in detail.
Mm-hmm. So yes, of course, I mean, there's the constitution, and then there's federal law, and then there's the law of the federal state itself. So the Versammlungsrecht, the right to assembly, is of course a constitutional right, and it's more that there, and then there is a federal law and the law of the federal state of Berlin and other federal states that define this in depth, and also define the restrictions. And that's why I say in the film, I believe it's a contradiction to call it freedom of assembly law, because it's a law that basically infringes on the right to assembly. So of course, we're all subjects of these laws, and so for many people, it's really difficult to understand that demonstrations are banned if there's no like special law. There's no it is not allowed to discriminate in front of the law, and yet here we have a particular issue and a group of people with particular demands, an ethnic group, a racial group, whatever you want to call it, that is being targeted, and whose demands and whose rights are being violated and disregarded. And so I always try to explain that a lot of things that are happening under the law aren't actually lawful. And we are living in a situation where there are a lot of legal gray zones. Things are discussed as if they're banned, or things are discussed as if they violate the law, when in fact they aren't. And so you have like these chilling effects that are being created, and people, and Germany has started to govern the situation towards the Palestinians and those who stand in solidarity with fear. So people often don't really know. I'll give you an example: the BDS movement. This BDS movement is actually a movement that demands equal rights, right of return, liberation, and all of that. You know the demands, I'm sure, and they're based on international law. And the demands are really basic. Like there's almost no debate about the rightfulness of these demands, and yet the German Parliament, the Bundestag, has issued a motion in 2019 trying to criminalize the BDS movement. Now, it isn't banned. It's not a violation to be member of the BDS campaign or to support the demands, but the fact that it has come from this body, from this powerful body, namely the parliament itself, portrays the idea, or has this message that everything connected to BDS, anything connected to Palestinian rights or Palestinian identity, is close to terrorism, is close to anti-Semitism, and is something that isn't supposed to have any space in the public sphere. And so often, I don't want to go into the details, and I don't want to bore you with these legal details, but often we're really talking about legal gray zones, and very often, I feel that we are seeing a state of exception that is being experimented with on the Palestinian community here in Germany. We've seen this in the past with the corona regulations. Of course, they were important, and of course we needed to take care of each other, and we didn't want to leave anyone behind, and therefore some measures were really important. But even like already there in these times, we started to see the the how governing through fear really is marched to, or like has helped the right-wing shift our German society, and now we see it even more with the targeting of Palestinians. And I want to underline that we're not only talking about Palestinians, we're talking about a very broad discourse that includes migrants and refugees and people of color and Black people and poor people. And this is an entire, like the Palestinian, I always say it's a figure. It's more than that. It's in the end, it's more than that. It's not just an actual Palestinian, but it's anything that is a dissident, and that questions the order, the oppressive order that we're living in, and that puts a question mark on an idea that Germany is a white nation.
In plain English, what are the things that are banned in Germany with respect to Palestine that are clearly banned and you're not supposed to do? Are there any things like that?
So I can give you a couple of examples, and almost none of them are legal, but they need to be challenged, right? We need to go to courts and challenge them.
Yep.
So many demonstrations are being banned, but as I've mentioned in the film, people have broken the ban. We didn't break it in the courts. People broke them, the bans. People gathered in the streets, and they, in the face of a genocide, they couldn't stay at home and just watch genocide unfolding on their TV screens. They went to the street. They faced the police, and they faced the defamatory media accusations about the Palestinians and about those who stand in solidarity.
Do you need a permit to have a demonstration?
You actually don't need a permit. This is also something that people misunderstand, not because they are dumb, but because the state gives them the idea that you need a permit. You only inform the authorities. You send an email and say, on this day, in this place, I'm going to call for a demonstration. This is all you need. And yet it is being discussed as if, you need to ask for permission. But this isn't the idea of our constitution. The constitution says the people have rights, and the state has to explain itself if they want to violate those rights. And this has been flipped. So demonstrations are banned. I want to mention the situation in the schools. This is a devastating situation for the generation, for the younger generation. Kufiyas are banned. The Palestinian flag is banned. Anything related to Palestinian identity, for example, necklaces or anything the like, is banned. People, like, students are being sent away from schools. There was a situation where a teacher tried to take away a flag of a young student, and hit the student in the face. And now the student is faced with criminal charges instead of the teacher. People were like, police came to their houses of people who had the Palestinian flag hanging outside their windows, telling them to take it off. I think, Nahed, perhaps you can tell us about what is going on in the cultural sector, because this is a devastating situation we're in. And I'm not exaggerating, but the fact that the AfD, the fascist party, is the second according to the surveys, the second largest party today, means that all these policies have to be read under the banner of authoritarianism, racism, and nationalism.
Yeah, I would like to add about the demos, because as Nadia said at the beginning, it was forbidden. Even like there was a time that even they forbid the Jewish Voice for Peace demos after that one. and people just went to the street. And then I think the police and the state, like, they decided, okay, we let them, but then they started to, like, you are not forbid to say this, you are not forbid to have this slogan. For example, I can give you an example which is really funny, because this, I don't know, they drive him crazy, this from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. So like one of the signs that there were, like, people were like taken away and taken their information, and maybe they will be charged. Like, from the river, we do see nothing like equality, things like this. So demonstrators, activists started actually to play also with this slogan. Each time they try to put it in a different way, to see how, it's like, you know, it's testing the limits of it. So yeah, and even now, what Nadia mentioned, it's really getting even worse actually since we did the film. The situation in Germany regarding pro-Palestinians is worse, although we see more people coming to the street, also not only Palestinians, mostly in Berlin, internationals and Arab nationalities. But for example, now in the culture institutions, in the funds, they're actually, if you apply to a fund, you need to approve the definition of anti-Semitism, the IHRA era definition. And that means you have, and this definition, I think for most people, they know it conflict anti-Jewishness with anti-Israeli. So in a way, actually, you cannot criticize the state of Israel in a time where actually South Africa is accusing the state of Israel of committing genocide, and people cannot criticize the state. So this is really something very new and very disturbing, because that means like, although like it's funny enough that I was talking to another Palestinian like an artist in Berlin, and he said, anyway, I don't get funds from Germany for my stuff, so I already applied before and I don't get it. So, but it's really, this is really very, it's getting even worse, like in this sense, like the spaces for Palestinians are shrinking in Berlin. The spaces to show films, to make art and talks is really shrinking. We always look for alternative spaces, like you know, people who, and people, these people risk their the space that could be shut, or if they have funds from the state, it can be drawn. And we already know that they raided some of these places, like Kronfel Cafe and things like this. So it's really, it's getting worse, and it really doesn't look really and as many people say now, actually, I don't understand. Maybe Dante can explain more about this Staatsräson and how, because the mentality of Germany towards like, even they cannot criticize a state which is obviously also a right-wing state. And even before 7 October, the German government were kind of, because of the demos in Tel Aviv, they were kind of being critical of this government or the previous government. For us, no difference. But now is really totally behind it. So
yeah, I wanted to actually ask
sad.
you about that. You know, Germany declares that its raison d'etat, its reason for being, is to protect the state of Israel due to its history of persecuting the Jews. Some people in our audience are also asking about the Jewish community in Germany. I know that you had, in some of the demonstrations you filmed, Jews from Jüdische Stimme, Jewish Voice, or Jewish Bund. And I think some people are wondering, you know, how many are there other Jews in Germany? And of course, there is a large, ever-growing presence of Jews in Germany resettling in Germany from Israel and elsewhere. If you could just talk a little bit about that and how that plays into, are there pro-Israel demonstrations? Are they disrupted in the same way that solidarity with Palestinian demonstrations are? Maybe you could discuss some of that in your experience, even before October 7th and now, of course, after, which is even more pronounced, as you've pointed out.
So yeah, I can say something about that. So that's true. A lot of progressive Israelis, those Israelis who reject the project of settler colonialism in Palestine, and other anti-Zionists are leaving Israel, and most of them are coming to Berlin. Most of them are here. And so they face a very contradictory situation coming to a country that claims to have learned its lessons and to proclaim never again, and supports supports Jewish life and Jewish culture, and everything Jewish, but that only works under a condition, and the condition being Zionism. If you are not a Zionist Jew, then all of these state policies of redemption and all of that does not apply to you, is not in your favor. To the contrary, you are being targeted as well as an anti-Zionist Jew. You aren't the right Jew. The Jewish Voice for Peace is an organization, that faced so much defamation and so many threats. They had their bank accounts being taken away from them, and this doesn't raise an eyebrow in Germany, in a country where Jews in the 30s and 40s had lost their legal subjectivity. Jewish people had lost their right to have property back then, and taking away a bank account today nobody had an issue with doing that and with supporting that. The Jewish Voice for Peace faces like regular threats and regular intimidation and regular smear campaigns, and nobody questions that. I'm talking, of course, about the public figures, the representatives, the media, and so on and so forth. Then there's an organization you've mentioned, Jewish Bund, that is aiming at reigniting the idea of Jewish diaspora, the Jewish idea of not having the world as their home, and not a nation that is confining what is defined as Jewish culture and Jewish history and Jewish identity in general. So I want to express my deepest solidarity with those organizers and those activists, because I understand that they are facing a lot of pressure. And it's not, some people say, well, if you are Jewish in this country, then you are protected, and you can play your Jewish card and you can say what you want. And this is absolutely not true. This is still an issue. We're still talking about anti-Semitism. We're still talking about racism when it comes to anti-Zionist Jews or non-Zionist Jews, just Jewish people, just Jews trying to be Jews, with no relationship to the state of Israel. So I think this is a very important thing to keep in mind.
I think also the emphasis in the film on the, how much racism is playing a role for these policies, and not so much, this legacy of German guilt from the Holocaust, but how the whole question of immigration of, say, Arab and Muslims to Germany and to Europe in general is really playing into the politics of the rise of something like AfD, the Alternative für Deutschland, the far-right party in Germany.
Yeah,
That is
exactly.
really such an important distinction in the way that people are targeted or singled out, not only on Palestine, but other issues as well. And maybe you want to comment on that as,
Yeah, and
you
although
know,
the
people losing their status or jobs and things like that. Yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, so although most of the anti-Semitism, there's statistics about it, come from the right wings in Germany and white nationalists, they're still in the media frame, like the media is really playing a very bad role in Germany. There is almost no media in Germany that they either ignore the demos about Palestine or they like label it as violent and Jewish hate demos and like this. And even like it's really creating more racism and more negative feelings. Like it's like they're using the Jewish fear, the let's say the Jewish community fear, who are not supporting Israel, or not, as Nadia said, they're not decided, or they want to just to be Jewish. They're playing on that, and they're like really, like if you look into the news, the German news, this is like, oh my God, like what kind, like these people are really very dangerous. We should stay away from them. Like, you know, it's really, really bad. The media, the politicians are playing very bad role in this. And I don't understand if there is like, let's say, some politicians who are reasonable, why they cannot see this, that this is playing actually and strengthening the right wing, AfD. Actually, maybe Nadia also can talk about this, what there were recent demos against the AfD, because the AfD actually now mobilizing because they want to make rules against refugees and migrants, and even and the next election, it seems actually CDU and AfD, they will be stronger in Germany.
Yeah.
So yeah,
definitely. Yeah, I also wanted to say that when we talk about the Staatsräson, as you've mentioned, the raison d'être, or the, I don't know how you would say that in English, but this is the general, this is the phrase. It has been uttered by Merkel before, and now by Chancellor Scholz. The Israeli security is the raison d'être of Germany. So the security of another state is what constitutes Germany, the protection of this. And so I always, thought, I always want to underline that it's a myth to believe that this has anything to do with German history and the Holocaust and World War II. It's a total myth, because we're not really talking about protecting Jewish life, or we're not really talking about protecting any, like a minority, or fighting about all forms of racism or war. Talking of the German military receiving billions of euros that has been decided since the Ukraine war, and the collaboration between Germany and Israel on the military, on the police. This has nothing to do with what we think means never again, but rather it helps to constitute a German national identity. Being German means my grandparents were a concentration camp, worked in concentration camps, or killed Jews. This is the German. This is what means to be German. And if your grandparents, if you just migrated here, and if you do not share that particular history, if you do not share that particular quote unquote guilt, then you cannot be German. This is what it means. this is what it means. Germany has no space for non-white Germans. This is a huge issue. But I want to say that up until recently, I thought that what Germany is doing here with the Palestinians, perfectly fits into the idea of like internal politics, law and order, anti-migration politics, anti-refugee, anti-Muslim politics. This is like an interior policies that they are using the Palestine issue for. But ever since Germany intervened in the ICJ proceedings on behalf of Israel, this was such a shocking news for me. I don't know why. Maybe you can call me naive, but the moment I saw that, I read that, I realized that we are not only a projection screen here for right-wing law and order and racist politics, but rather that Germany really considers this to be their genocide. Germany really considers Israel to be their frontier, their colony. They are in full identification with what is going on. This is not just solidarity, as Chancellor Scholz and all other politicians said, from right to left, being in but really it is they are fully identify with what is going on.
Does that mean
There
they
was absolutely
kind of
no-
does that mean they kind of missed having genocide for a long time and they're looking forward to going back to doing genocide and Holocaust?
No genocide without the Germans.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. I mean, my other question is, if there was no Israel, would that mean that Germany has no reason to exist? The only thing they exist for is just for the service of Israel? I mean, we thought the United States had a lock on that.
It's an interesting question that you're posing, because in fact I think that both states need each other. Both states were born, and I'm talking here about the Federal Republic of Germany and Israel. Both states were born in the same time and born under similar historical conditions, namely after World War II. And both states need each other for justification. Now, of course, we know that Zionism has nothing to do with the persecution of the Jews during the 30s and 40s. Zionism is much older than that. And the colonization of Palestine is much older than that as well. And yet, of course, Israel's raison d'être is always referring to what has happened to them, the persecution and the genocide they faced in Europe, which, of course, again, we know that Zionism has a whole different history independent of the Holocaust. But they claim that Israel is a safe haven for Jews all around the world because of what Germany has done to them. And at the same time, Germany needs Israel to justify in front of the international community that, they needed to be invited back to the civilized nations. Because look, we're giving all our money to Israel. We recognize what we've done, and we fully support the Israeli state with all its implications. And this means that we are now back in the game. So both states ideologically need each other. Yes. And this is why I think being Palestinian in Germany is such a pain in the neck for Germans, because you have a living proof of why your calculations did not work.
Well, maybe we should send them some more.
We want to go back, believe me.
Have some more people get married and make new babies there. Get the birth rate high. None of this makes any sense, really. Whatsoever. I know what you're saying, but and that's probably what I think it's going to take a lot more than what Germany is doing to undo what they did in the Holocaust. This stuff supporting Israel doesn't necessarily get him off the hook of what they did.
I think the problem, maybe they didn't deal with it in the right way. This is the
Yeah.
problem. This is
Yeah.
they dealt with it by exporting, like stay there and don't come back, or stay there, and this is also a problematic, I think, because I think actually, as Nadia said, many are coming to Berlin now, because they don't want to be there anymore for many reasons, some economic reasons also.
And
Yeah.
the idea of trying to defend the genocide that Israel is doing, I don't know who advises the German government on this stuff, but that's not going to look good to the rest of the world.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, and I
So you-
think this is something, excuse me.
Go ahead.
I think what is becoming clearer and clearer is now when we think about the ICJ proceedings, and also when we think about what is happening on the streets of Berlin, we see that Palestine is a topic and an issue that brings together the fight of the global South against the global North. When you see who has intervened in the ICJ hearings on what side, and when you see who is in solidarity here in Berlin with the Palestinian people, these are people who see their very own struggles happening there. These are people who understand that targeting Palestinians means targeting dissident voices, means targeting non-white people, means targeting racialized people, means targeting the constitutional rights. And I think this is what is at stake here. And I think that also, I want to mention this little anecdote. I gave a workshop a while ago for a Syrian NGO about war crimes and so on and so forth. And I arrived there, and the room is full of Syrian activists, and everybody wanted to talk about Palestine. Everybody wanted to talk about what is going on in Palestine, and everybody said the same thing. They said, we were oppressed in Syria, and we demonstrated against the dictatorship there, and we were tortured, and we were in prison, and we had to flee the country, and we came here only to realize that this is the same. They were chased in the streets. They were arrested for just for holding candles, for silent marches to commemorate the victims in Gaza. They were beaten up by the police. They were unlawfully arrested and put in detention for many hours. And now they're facing criminal charges solely for expressing their opinion. And I think if this is if people who have come from Syria, where a situation is, of course, very, very serious, and this is what is being triggered here, these experiences trigger like those memories, then I think we are in trouble. We are really in trouble.
Nahed and Nadia, I wonder if you could talk about what, if any, elements are there in Germany, either at the government level or in the media or in civil society, as some people are asking in the chat or in the Q&A. Is it really just there's no, and the average German, how are they processing all this? I wonder if you could just speak a little bit about, what, if any, elements in Germany are there that you can draw from and build upon to bring some sanity to the ways in which Germany is completely just bypassing this issue in the way that it's dealing with it.
I can tell you. So recently there has been a survey, and 60%, right, Nahed, we just talked about it. 60% of Germans do not support Israel's actions. And then there's, let's say, something like 20% that say we support it, we think it's good what they're doing, and the rest they don't know really. They don't know. So we can say that the vast majority is either rejecting this or at least questioning this, plus the support of their very own government. And now the situation here in Germany is that civil society is mostly funded by the state. I think this is a huge difference in the US, where there's a lot of like private initiatives, right, based on donors or based on membership or something like this. Correct me if I'm wrong. But in Germany, like the vast majority of civil society, be it associations, human rights organizations, cultural organizations, or initiatives, projects, all of that is funded by the state. And this is why you will not find any public statement supporting Palestinians and their demands, supporting the right to protest, freedom of speech, and all of that. And those who did, I think I'm mentioning one in the film, which is called COP. And they have a sister organization called Reach Out. They support survivors of police violence, survivors of racism, racist violence, and so on. They are regularly called by the state, by the Senate that funds them. They are regularly called and they are regularly told not to overdo it, to withdraw certain statements, they're regularly put under pressure. Same goes for cultural institutions who are brave enough to still say something. I'm going to mention Theater X, which is a migrant-led youth theater. They are regularly threatened, and on a regular basis, defamatory newspaper articles are being published about them in order to push for them being defunded. And one, Ayun, would you like to mention this, Nahed?
Yeah. I want to add, this is like, there is so much fear that they are fearing to speak up. It's not only the fund, I think, Nadia, I think it's the culture. I don't know, maybe because of the history. Okay, maybe we can say on the level of the politicians, it's not about the history, but because, this tema is still everywhere. You see it talked about in the TV and schools. So people are fearing, like they're really fearing. And this is the problem. They connect the state of Israel of what happened in the Holocaust. This is the problem. Like Ayun, it's a culture place, which is a beautiful venue that people really like gather there. There is different space in it for music, for showing films, exhibitions, and they hosted an event for Jewish Voice for Peace, and they got threatened. And they are actually still threatened that their fund will be taken. And this is like the team of this place are mostly people of color, and they come from Arabic countries or other Latin America. So they're really a diverse team, and everybody was happy that they got this place. And now, because they are hosting hosting events related to Palestine, or they are being threatened that their contract will be ended soon. So, but they're brave enough now to fight it. I don't know what happened. I think they're going into a court, or they're trying to, maybe Nadia know more about
They went
that.
to court and they lost.
They lost.
They are appealing it now. They are
Mm.
appealing it now. Yes.
So, yeah, it's
Some
really,
easier questions. This film is still fairly new, but how has the reaction been to the film? What kind of feedback are you getting from people who've seen it? Are there places that refuse to screen it? Or what is the overall response?
mostly it's the good views. We didn't really screen it. This is the first time we screen it like this. It was actually because it was funded by Al Jazeera English, a program called Witness.
Yeah.
And it was on YouTube. So I think until now we had 250, almost 250 people saw it online.
Wow.
Thousands.
How many?
250,000, yeah.
Oh, okay. That makes more sense.
Yeah, no, sorry. And yeah, and I think people like Nadia is very famous now in Berlin. Everybody knows. So it's like, yeah, we mainly we got really good feedback, and also maybe the time of the releasing of the film was also important, because things were starting to even get harder. Like, for example, while editing the film, everything happened the 7th of October. So we had to, of course, it was important to also include what happened, and that's why you see the last scene in the demo with Nadia and Iris, which was really important also to have in the film. So yeah, I don't know,
So
Nadia.
you really had to think on your feet, and I mean, it is actually astounding to have your film come out and include basically include the present. It's really,
Yeah, because it's related
as you
to the
said, it
topic.
wasn't like you were calculating that when you started making the film, but this is what ultimately
Yeah, and it
happened
was,
during the production, and it's good that you were able to include some of the backlash of how that has affected, taken the restrictions on Palestinian solidarity in Germany and in Berlin in particular to the next level since October 7th.
yeah. Yeah, and documentaries, sometimes something happens that you have to consider it, and of course it was important element of the film, but unfortunately the reality for Palestinians in Germany and pro-Palestinians, who are many now in Germany, activists, it's getting darker actually and harder.
And of course, Germany has this long-standing history. One of our someone in our audience talked about the fact that there was, Germany brought in a huge Turkish population following World War II, and then at some point, wanted to send them home. So they were done with them. Germany is not very welcoming to its Ausländer, its foreigners, and that's only been exacerbated, I think, by policy towards the Middle East in general and Muslim countries and Muslims around the world in Western nations. And so, that added element of overt racism disguised somehow as, protecting, the persecution of Jews historically through Germany's unique history is all really so laced with hypocrisy that that's why I keep asking about, what are Germans thinking? I'm really looking forward to going to Germany soon and teasing that out myself. But in my days of studying in Freiburg and being all throughout Germany, including in East and West Berlin, I just, that history is definitely on my awareness, the historic presence of that racism and how that's played out over time.
I think when you ask what Germans are actually thinking, I do think that they disagree with what is happening. They Germans, it might sound contradictory now, but Germans have a tradition of pacifism, especially during the so-called
Yeah.
Cold War. The churches, the trade unions, there are these huge organizations that are traditionally opposed to war. And this consensus has been put under pressure ever since the Ukraine war. And this is just a continuation. This is the breaking of a pacifistic or anti-militaristic position or tradition is what this is what we're all seeing right now. But I think if you talk to Germans, I think most of them at least are uncomfortable. Most of them, though, are also unknowledgeable. They don't, because there's no space to talk about this. I really hate to say that, because I'm absolutely no fan of conspiracy theories or, you know, like just general judgments of or generalizing or anything like that. But the media, they are playing a devastating role. They are all aligned with the government position. This is truly scary in every sense of the word. There's no opposition or public opposition, and there's a huge gap between the published opinion and the public opinion. People, and this is the issue, people feel that there's something wrong, but there are no spaces to educate yourself or to discuss this. I think Nahed has mentioned shrinking spaces. We cannot just rent a room and have a public debate. At the same time, yes, there's social media and there are these new spaces that are being opened up in the virtual world. But there you have the issue of lack of accountability and the issue of fake news, the issue of, you know, like people not being really knowledgeable about how to handle data and to put it into something that actually makes sense, into an analysis, really. And most people, I mean, I will be honest, I can sit here with you, talk to you about this from Germany because I have a German passport and because I'm a lawyer, and because I do not have a boss. I have my own office, and a lot of people cannot do that because
Right,
they
they're
are
much more vulnerable. Yeah. Can you talk generally about artists, what artists are facing? I know you talked a little bit about how difficult it is to get funding, but having, you know, there is a very vibrant artist community in Berlin. As a filmmaker, Nahed, you're an artist, and I just wondered if you could talk about the mood and also the challenges of doing art that somehow either is criticism of Israel in solidarity with Palestine, and how that plays out on the ground in Berlin and more generally in Germany.
Yeah, well, Berlin is have lots of culture spaces actually in general for culture and art, and many galleries and so on. But many of them are funded by the state, by the Senate. And this is a problem because, like, for example, I can give you like a few years ago, even before I came, there was a Palestinian film festival. Not film, it was a festival for everything. And I heard it was really good and big, and it was hosted in big venues in Berlin. But then maybe Nadia can tell you more about that. But then it got actually bad media. They really had to like silence this venue, and they were really like, after that they didn't do the festival again. There was lots of problems. They couldn't really get funds anymore. And I think also the team, it was also privately for them very bad because one of them was accused of being anti-Semitic, like anti-Semitic. They used this against it, and until now, since I came, I was like saying, how come like now everywhere in the world there is a Palestinian film festival everywhere, and they call it a Palestinian film festival. Like in France, you have Cine Palestina,
In Italy.
they everywhere except Berlin. There is like since 2 years there is a festival which is not only film but it's not called Palestine. It's called South, you know. So it's like even the word Palestine, you try to hide it so it doesn't attract problems or it doesn't. So it's really it's actually you have to always look for alternative funds outside Germany or private funds, and also alternative spaces. Like look for people, like sometimes there's these association that they have a private place and you can use it and then you can collaborate with them. But yeah, so it's really, and maybe Nadia can add on that, because so even if you see like these big venues are so closed for Palestine in Berlin.
Well, and look what happened in the Frankfurt Buchmesse, the Frankfurt Book Fair. You had
with
Ariana
Adania
Shibli,
Shibli.
who
Yeah.
with her Minor Detail, and you know, she won an award and they canceled the award ceremony during the Buchmesse because of backlash, and she still got awarded, but like over on the side, right? Not in the limelight that she deserved given what she won. So, and you know, that even happened before, that was before October 7th, right?
Yeah, and Emily
it was in
Jasser,
September.
she had a talk, Emily Jasser in Potsdam University. She was also canceled. So,
And lots of situations like that.
and Anne-Marie Jasser film was taken out from the German TV, and it's, you know, the wajib, and it's mainly about the wedding in Al-Nasra.
Yeah,
So
we
it's
screened that film.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the topic, right? If the affiliation is there, then somebody's going to. And what about at the university level? I know that, you know, higher education in Germany is mostly state run, but what's happening there, you know, in the United States, I'm sure you're aware that we've had university presidents have had to step down. We've had organizations banned or suspended, and you know, in Israel, Palestinian students have also been suspended. So I just wonder what's the climate on campus in Germany, in Berlin, if you want to speak to that. I know we're probably running out of time here, but go ahead.
I can tell you firsthand.
Well, actually, I'm doing my master now in Udika, the art university, and there was a sit-in in the university because all the universities, the main universities in Berlin, they made a statement after 7 October, but they didn't do it right away. I think it was 1 week after, and they acknowledged what happened on 7 October, and they gave their support to Israel, but they didn't even mention the Palestinian they didn't even mention the Palestinian victims or what's happening in Gaza. They totally ignored that. So this, some of the students, they made some sit-in the universities, and then there was a bad media about it. I think you had also this in the US, where, you know, because of the red hand, and then they twisted it in a very, like really very ridiculous way, that this means calling for violence and all of that. And it was like, you know, a protest against the university statement, which was, you know, totally one-sided. This was only, and yeah, so, but now there were, maybe Nadia knows more about what happened in the Freie University. There was also
There was protests, of course, and there was an attempt to do a teach-in and to take a room over, or to squat a room, basically, university space. And the university administration called the police on them, called the police on their own students, and they
Wow.
demanded them to be violently evicted from that room. And the university administration now is pressing charges against their own students for trespassing, quote unquote. And I think it's, I said that to Nahed recently when we met. We've talked about all these awful forms of repression. We've talked about the violence people are facing, the threats, deportation waves. People are like, it is being discussed publicly to take away the citizenship of naturalized people because they are being they committed anti-Semitic acts, whatever anti-Semitism means. I mean, we know that the state is going to use a very pro-Zionist definition of anti-Semitism, but nevertheless, you cannot take away a right, a citizenship or a residency permit or anything based on an opinion you're holding. And so we talked about all these things, but I want to underline something very, very important. I've been living in Berlin for almost 20 years, and this is something I've never seen before in terms of resistance. We can talk about repression all the time, and we can mention all these violent acts and these cases and so on. But I want to underline that the students of the Freie Universität, the students of the UDK, there are students in Potsdam and many other universities all across Germany. They are so brave. And the people protesting in the streets, these are refugees. They have a very vulnerable status. They can be deported anytime. Very strong response to the state violence. And so people, after more than 100 days of the genocide that is happening in Gaza now, people still come to gatherings. They want to do things. They want to discuss. There's a reading circle now. There's a reading group now, Palestine reading group. People are coming, and it's not stopping. The demonstrations are not stopping. The masses are still in the streets. I really want us to remind ourselves of the power that has been, you know, the power in the streets, and the repression is not succeeding. Yes, there's fear, and yes, there's intimidation, but people are pouring still to the streets, to the protests, to like all generations from all backgrounds. This is something that is new.
Powerful and powerful.
It's new.
True.
There's also this boycott of German institutions that has taken place by artists, and are you guys familiar with that?
Yeah.
People are asking, artists are asking the international artists not to perform in Germany.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think they understand the total alignment and identification of Germany with the genocide against Palestinians.
Mm-hmm. Well, how can we help, you know, at the museum? You know, we have the ability to communicate and to show things that people can watch from Germany.
Sure.
What can we do to help? We can go sell our BMWs maybe, or
Okay, so there is an organization called ELSC, European Legal Support Center. This is an organization, it's based in the Netherlands, but it works across Europe with a focus on Germany to support the right of Palestinians and those who stand in solidarity with demanding rights and with demanding and with fulfilling their fundamental rights. I think it's very good to support this organization. I think they have also started to collect
Krista,
quotes.
do you have their contact?
Oh yeah, I can.
Oh, you
You're
I was just gonna
not
look
yet.
it up and put it, okay,
Yeah.
Right. So this is
I
from.
can put it in the chat. I'm just gonna look
That
it
would
up.
be great. That would be great. They do it. They monitor. They monitor violations. They also monitor genocidal speech, because in Germany, I don't know what the situation is like in the US, but here former ministers can just tweet that they believe Gaza would make a great parking lot next to the Mediterranean Sea, and thereby, demanding basically the full annihilation of the population of Gaza. And this is just, a normal position, a normal statement here. But they are collecting these positions to hold those people accountable, because
Yeah.
this is an incitement, and this is a support of genocide.
Complicit. Yeah, I hope. For me, actually, I think the film community and Palestinian art community been talking about, like, we need a fund, like Sanduq, for films and arts, dependent from the PA, because they've been talking about this. Actually, this is very much needed now, because
Forget the PA.
I know, but I mean, because
Your chance of getting the money from the German government is better than getting money from the PA.
no, you think so? No, I don't think so. But yeah, but I
Well, whatever
mean,
money you're going to get is going to be stolen on the way. So nothing going to be left of it when you get it.
no, but I mean, it's about time that the film community, that we have our own funding. Even when you're asking funds for other countries, it's always better to have fund first from like a fund. We have few Arab fund, صناديق fund. Like in Doha and in Afaq, the Beirut, but we still need more, because I believe now, despite all this misery inflicted by the Israeli government on Gazans and Palestinians in the West Bank, and on us here by the German system, there is so many stories to be told, and we still have so many creative people from Gaza living outside, and also many Palestinians that would be happy to, and would be wants to do films and art. Yeah.
I wonder if you have, Nadia, this is something maybe you could consider. I know that the organization Standing Together, which is operating primarily inside Israel, set up a network so that Palestinians or even Jewish Israelis who have either lost their jobs or suspended from school or otherwise under attack from the authorities, it's almost like a hotline, and so that they can have a record of what's happening and also steer people toward resources that can help them. I don't know how expansive your network is at this point, but I was wondering if you've done anything like that in Germany, or at least in Berlin.
Yes, exactly. Thanks for reminding me. We do have a hotline. We have an ad hoc lawyers collective that was founded really thanks to the situation since October, and these are like very trusted, very brave lawyers who came together very spontaneously, and we've expanded our network to 30 lawyers across Germany, which,
oh, wonderful,
given the situation that we are in, is a lot. because our official associations, our official chambers, lawyers' chambers, lawyers, they issued the Staatsräson statements after 7th of October. We have absolutely no trust in these institutions. But yes, we have that hotline, and we are always available on the street during the demonstrations. We walk with those who organize the demonstrations. We are present immediately when somebody is arrested. We go to the detention centers to demand their release. We are called when people are smeared by media or fired from their jobs or threatened by the university administration. And we're doing this 24/7. And we're doing this totally because we believe in the cause. We have no funding whatsoever. And so, yes, we have
also in the demos, no?
We are present in the demonstrations, exactly.
Yeah. There's always a lawyer or two in the demos, actually.
You have to wear a special mark or something so people recognize you as the demonstration lawyer?
No, we don't. We have our IDs in case the police asks.
But
no
armbands?
No, my God, no. No, but we are already, and this is also something that is a very beautiful experience. We are receiving so much love and support. People invite us to dinners. The community is so caring, the community is so grateful, and the community really gives back in any way they can. So a lot of people already know us when they see us, and so we're really thankful for that. And most of the times, as I said, we don't really need to be present ourselves, but mostly people have started to know who we are.
Is there a place where the museum can put on an art exhibit there in Berlin that can't be shut down?
That can't be shut down. That is the point.
Yeah.
So, Nahed, do you know the SPORE initiative? SPORE, something like this, here in Hermannstraße? Have you heard about them?
SPORE initiative?
Yeah. Well, I've just been there a few weeks ago.
Okay.
I wanted to pick up a friend, and then I saw that they have a poetry reading of Palestinian poems. And I listened to them, and they were so...
with Adaniya, I think.
This was after that.
Yeah, but yeah.
You know, and this is a privately funded space.
Yeah, that's why.
Privately funded space, but it's a beautiful space. Well, it's a gentrifying space at the same time. This is, but
a reality.
We can discuss this on
another topic.
Maybe it'll be a good space. Who knows?
What about giving to the Ad Hoc Lawyers Collective? One of our viewers is interested in donating. Is there a contact?
That's
information that you could provide?
Yeah, that's very kind. We are still an informal network, so we have no.
Right.
We cannot receive any money, but this is why I suggested you can support the ELSC, and they support us structurally. So, for example, when we put out a press release about what we experience as lawyers here on the ground, they help us to publish it and to spread the word. So they are more or less our roof organization, even though we are an informal network. But we work with each other. We also help them with their monitoring. We help them with their database about judgments that are being issued here in Germany, cases that we win, cases that we lose. We are in a very close contact.
Now, do you think because of some of the cases that you've been able to win that there will be any shift in either the way police react towards demonstrators or the accusations that are filed? Do you see any shift there, or is it really just the police have their orders to behave in this way, and you're going to challenge that, and then behind the scenes in the courtroom, some of that gets kind of filtered through, or what's the word? You know, where the case is the charges are lifted. That's what I'm looking for. I think all this bilingualism is scrambling my brain.
It's
Can't find the right
difficult
word.
to say. It's difficult.
Yeah.
I think we still will need some time to be able to do a proper evaluation. I would just mention one
Too early
thing.
to tell. Mm.
We won a very important case about BDS rooms. We won on the highest court. We won a case that says public locations cannot kick out BDS related events. And even though this was a very important ruling, this was a very, we really missed the echo in the media and in the on the governmental level. And we have the impression that every time we win, we're being like totally ignored because no one is supposed to know about this.
Right.
We
So
won
it's like
very
a secret.
important. We won important, like, they tried to criminalize the slogan "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free."
Mhm.
There are courts who said that there is no incitement in this slogan and this is freedom of speech and so on and so forth. And still police arrest people because of this, claiming that this is a
So
Hamas.
even the police don't know the outcome of the court's order, much less.
I think to some extent, to be honest with you, I think it's arbitrary. It's for example, people holding placards or banners mentioning the word genocide, being confiscated. When people, there was an interview circulated a lot in Germany with some pro-Zionist or Zionist rapper, and he said, "Free Palestine is the modern equivalent to Heil Hitler." This is just an outrageous. I mean, this takes over the platforms and not the cases that
not the truth. Yeah, that is absurd.
No,
what about the bapika? What about the watermelon symbol? Some people asked about that. Sorry, Faisal. A lot of people asked, is that symbol
that's
allowed
fine.
at
It's
demonstrations?
over the
I have one in my pocket here.
Still.
No, it's still fine.
That's still
I
fine.
have one a pin on my jacket.
No, I was gonna say there is another version of From the River to the Sea. It goes like this: from the sea to the river, Palestine will live forever. So if they don't like the first one, then we can try the other one on them.
I think we have to stay creative and we have to stay adamant.
The other one is worse for them, though, than the first one.
I know. They may.
Palestine will live forever is a lot more.
Well, certainly the like you said, even those most vulnerable are still taking to the streets, and that's just an indication of how important it is to not stop talking about this issue, to stand up for it, for those of us who can, and even for those of us who can't. It's a moment in history. I mean, how many people said, "Oh, if we had only known about the Holocaust, we would have done more to stop it or to handle things differently." And of course, now we are witnessing atrocities day in and day out on every screen imaginable. There's no excuse for what's happening not to stand up for a stop and end to the death and destruction in Gaza, and of course all the harassment and killing that's going on in the West Bank as well, which is probably not as reported. So there is no excuse. And
Krista,
we certainly appreciate your efforts and everyone's efforts who's on this webinar with us, and wish you both the best of luck in what you're doing. And I'm sure we'd love to have you again. I think our audience appreciates you taking the time to be with us today as well.
All right. I think we are out of time, so we need to wrap up. Would like to thank Nahid and Nadia for taking the time to be with us today for almost 2 hours here.
Wow.
And thank you for allowing us to screen the film and for your insight on what's going on and what's not going on in Berlin. And I'm very encouraged by all I heard about the need to put a Palestine art exhibit in Berlin. And we should work on that hard. Sounds like a challenge worth taking up.
Well, we have Steve Sabella there too. He can help point us
Yeah.
hopefully in the right direction.
Yeah, we screened Steve's disc, but we did better on it. We put a motor under it and made it spin one round a
Yeah,
minute.
it was spinning.
It was spinning. We still
That was
tried
at
to
the
ship it back.
exhibit from Palestine, Our Past, Our Future, that ran in Venice through November 26th. So that just concluded recently.
Yeah, we have our own battles to fight in Italy, so maybe you guys can give us a hand there. We're fighting with the Benali right now.
Yeah, okay.
There's
Yeah.
a link to the virtual exhibit, even though it's closed now. You can maybe still see Steve Sabella's Great March of Return piece on the floor in the center of the hallway. If you look at that virtual exhibit, I encourage you to open that link before we sign off here. And of course, all the other wonderful representations that were there, multimedia representations that related to the Nakba. So thank you again, both of you.
Yeah.
Look forward to seeing what you produce next, and be safe. And thank you for all of the support you're also providing to others. And
Thank you too. Thank you very much. For
Yeah,
the
Nahid,
arts speaking out.
Nahid would like to screen some more of your films, actually. I've been looking at the Gaza film, Gaza Calling, and of course we want to do the one about the Jerusalem airport, which I have special interest in that, since I used to go to.
Yeah, I honestly didn't know about that either. That was really eye-opening for me to learn about that. So
anyway, thanks everyone, and tomorrow we are having a different kind of a session. We are hosting a singer and a songwriter who sings about Gaza. And we will listen to some of his music and talk to him tomorrow. And we hope people who are still with us.
David Rovics.
Yeah, we have 129 people still with us, which is good. And we had more than 200 when we were screening the film. So that's good. And we hope to see some of you tomorrow. And thanks to our audience who joined us on Zoom, the ones that came to the museum, and we look forward to seeing everyone again. And we always say at the end, Ma salama.
Ma salama, everybody. Take care.
Tschüss.